Hi everybody, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and part 3 of the Arma Hobby 1/72nd scale Hurricane Mark II-C Trop. In part 2, I did the assembly, made a few notes on some things I discovered and that type of thing, but after all that, it is now ready for primer and paint. So the first thing I need to do before I start with the primer and paint is I need to paint the frame of the windscreen here in the interior color of the cockpit. That way, with the cockpit open, when you look inside, you will see the appropriate color and not just, like primer color or whatever. And I'll also have to do the same thing for this here. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll shoot some primer on it, and then come back and see what's up. Alright, so I've got the aircraft primed. I used the Ammo one-shot. So now I'm going to actually paint it with MkIIc XF60 dark yellow. Now normally I do the bottom first, but because of the way this aircraft has the demarcation line is right here along this sharp edge on the bottom, I figured it'd be best if I painted up here, overlapped a little bit, then prime or then mask it and do the bottom. So that's the plan. But XF60 is the paint, so we'll come back. Okay, here's where it's looking right now. I've got the first color on, which is the MkIIc XF60, which is the lighter of the camo colors. And as you can see, I've got some masking going on here. So here is how I do the masking. In case you haven't watched my videos doing this before, I basically just lay out some tape on my desk, on just the mat, not on the paper, and I cut out the particular area I'm going to be doing. So say I'm doing a wing. So what I do is I take this and I make sure that the surface area of my tape is appropriate to cover all of this, and then I cut the wing out, in this case the wing, and then draw around it with a pin. And then what I do, like say this is my strips of tape laid out into this size. So, well, it's too small. That's just great. So this is my tape. I will lay this on there after I cut it out. Let me just cut this. I usually use my X-Acto knife, but for the sake of, I've already done this so I can waste this piece. For the sake of speed, I'll do it like this. So I lay it down. Well, I'll just show you the whole thing. Okay, this is cut out. Pretend this is tape here. So what I do is I use my pen. I actually prefer a very fine point Sharpie because there's less problems with it writing on the MkIIc tape, but a ballpoint works good as long as it's a decent one. So I'll outline it like this. Then where the color demarcations are, I'll make a little hash mark like this. So I know where those colors should line up. Okay, so then I use my X-Acto knife and I carefully, on the surface on my cutting mat, I will trim all around these, and I will end up with stuff like this. Okay, this is the one that I actually used. Then by using Now mind you, this is all drawn out on tape normally. Then I will just line this up like this with those hash marks, these parts that I've cut. And then I will draw it out with my pen like that. And then obviously the other parts as well. Let me see, I'll go ahead and find them. Now this one I did a little bit, the length is a little bit different, but you'll get the idea. So this lines up like this, and then draw that. Hold it down, just make sure. Okay. And then there's another piece that's kind of over here. I don't want to dig it out. So then once I have that drawn out on the tape, then I carefully cut it all out again. And then, in this case, since I am covering the lighter color to spray the darker color, pretend this is tape right here, I peel this part off, and using, for lack of a better term, landmarks on the wing, details such as panel lines and stuff like that, I will take my tape and I'll carefully line it up, and using these straight edges here for the front of the wing and so forth, stick it all down and make sure it's all burnished down good. Make sure it folds down over the front edge. Back edge I'm not worried about as much because it's so thin, and just do that all the way around. And I have it kind of hanging off a little bit. Not really that much problem with overspray, but I just like to have it hanging off a little bit. And then I do all of the upper surfaces. Then once that's done, I will use the same method using my, and what I've done, I forgot to mention, is I scaled this up to this size. So I just used I think in this case it was a little under 200% on a copier, which gave me the proper dimension. So I was able to make it the appropriate size. These here, in this case, already happen to be in the correct size. So all I have to do is just cut these out. Using the same method, I'll cut them out. I'll stick them on the sides, on both sides. And then for the top, using this as a guide, since the side camouflage isn't going to go all the way up, I'll use scraps, connect them together to make it all one cohesive, unified camouflage job. Then all I got to do is spray it, peel it off, and I'm ready to move on to the bottom. So that's it. One of these days I'm going to do an actual video showing my methods in detail in masking, but that for now will kind of give you an idea. Here, right here is the templates of the ones that I blew up in order to cut those wings out. So pretty easy and pretty effective, especially for hard edge camo. There are tricks to do soft edge, but I'm not going to get into that on this particular video because I'm not utilizing those methods. All right, so more masking, painting, I'll be back. All right, so here, whoops, here it is with the primary paint coats on, the camouflage up top and the blue underneath. So next thing I need to do is I need to take this off and spray in here with my Vallejo acrylic metal color, silver. And this is kind of an experiment for me because normally I spray those components first before I put the do the bottom coat on, but I'm just wanting to try something different here to see how it works, spraying it afterwards, because for some aircraft it just seems like it would be a lot easier to do it that way. So I'm gonna get this taped up and then get it sprayed. Okay, so I've got all the paint on top and bottom, and I put my clear coat on there, and as you can see, it's not real super shiny. I just wanted to have a clear coat to help cut down on the ultra flat Tamiya paint for whenever I start doing some panel line washes. And overall, everything has gone really well. The exception would be I had a little bit of paint peel up right there. And I don't know if for sure this is the reason, but I have discovered that the batch of black ammo one-shot that I got has been very problematic. I don't know what the deal is. The red-brown that I have doesn't seem to have the problems that this does. So in the future, I don't think I'm going to be using this anymore. I'm going to have to get some more black, but I'm going to stick with the actual Stynylrez brand and you know, do it that way. But anyway, because I've never had paint peel off before, so yeah, that's kind of distracting, but no big deal. I'll just once, you know, I get my decals on, my wash, and I'm ready to put my flat coat on it so I can finish it up, I will touch that up before I do the flat coat. Shouldn't be a big deal, and we'll be okay. But anyway, I'm going to start working on the decals, and then I'll come back. Alright, let's touch base here with what's going on. So, as you can see, I've got all the decals on, and I've started working on some of the weathering. I'm going to go kind of light on weathering. I'm not just going to get, you know, all super crazy, but I do want to make it look a little bit used. And I got some exhaust staining. I looked on the internet and looked at the pattern of the staining to replicate that. The exhaust, I painted the exhaust with Vallejo acrylic metal color burnt iron as a base, and then I got some Abteilung light mud to make some exhaust soot, ash, whatever you want to call it, on there. So those are pretty much ready to go. And then using my Abteilung dark mud, I'm starting to put some staining around the base of the lower edges of the landing gear doors, and where it would be kicked up from the wheels. Also back here, stain that up a little bit. So I'm just going to continue working on that. The next thing I want to do is now I'll kind of show you what I'm doing. I don't want to turn this into a weathering thing, but I'm just taking a little bit of this dark mud. I'll probably come back on top of that with some light mud to change it up a little bit, and just stippling it on, or putting some on there, and then gonna stipple it up like that to create some staining. I don't want to make it look like this thing's totally abused. But I do want to dirty it up some. That's basically what I'm doing right there. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Then I'll get some lighter colors, like the light mud, and do the same thing. Just kind of get some staining going on. Alright, so I got my last clear coat put on, so I'm going to let that dry a little bit. Then I can start thinking about putting on the cannons, the exhaust, the canopy, and getting the wheels on, and the prop and the pitot tube. Once I do that, I'm going to be pretty close to done, so we'll come back here in a little bit. Alright, so I've got pretty much everything done. Got all the extra parts glued on. Now they're drying, so with that, I think I'm going to call this video quits. Next time I come back, I will do my final thoughts on the kit and do a quick slideshow and wrap this thing up. So thanks for joining me here with the Arma Hobby 1/72 scale Hurricane Mark II-C Trop. And as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you all later.